You're listening to the Backroom Beer League podcast with your hosts, Jacob, Nigel, and Greg. Bringing you your fantasy sports content recorded from the back room. To stay up to date, follow us at BRBL Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and rate the podcast to show us your support. Now, here's Jacob, Nigel, and Greg to talk fantasy sports.
It is 9:35 on Wednesday, April 1st at the time of recording. As always, you're listening to Jacob, Nigel, and Greg. And as with everything else during the COVID-19 pandemic, our podcast was forced to take a premature hiatus after our university stopped offering in-person classes. That being said, all three of us are healthy. We're still doing this podcast. Episode 8 is finally coming out. But all three of us are kind of working out the details right now. It's a remote setup, so bear with us. The past number of weeks have been hard for sports fans of all kinds, really, because there's been no sports at all. So what is there to talk about as a sports podcast? Well, we did miss out on the NFL free agency period, so we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Some theoretically based discussions around sports in general, and a little bit of whatever we want, really. I mean, it's not like we have many restrictions considering there's no sports leagues in action right now. So with that being said, I think it's best that we just jump right into NFL free agency, into a winners and losers segment on what was bought and what was sold to teams in the wild month of March. What do you two think?
Well, we may as well start with the elephant in the room, because when we thought about this winners and losers segment, I said first thing we're going to do is there's two teams we're going to exclude because it's an elephant in the room. We're going to exclude the Cardinals and the Texans because within the first hour. Okay, so legal tampering started. Within the first hour, a trade happened that nobody thought would happen. Earlier that day, Bleacher Report put out an article that they were talking of maybe trading DeAndre Hopkins for a first. So an hour into legal tampering, news comes out that David Johnson is being traded to the Texans. And I thought, whatever. They probably gave up a third or a fourth because that's a hefty fucking contract to take in.
Worth.
Well, it's also an $11 million a year contract, and the Cardinals just want to contract them. And then all of a sudden, the trade breaks. We hear breaking news. DeAndre Hopkins has been traded to the Arizona Cardinals for David Johnson, a second, and a swap of fourths.
Nigel and I blew up.
They couldn't get the first-round pick for arguably the best receiver in the game. Top three. I think best hands in the game right now, but
I sat on my couch and waited for there to be more in the deal.
Bill O'Brien. I've wanted Bill O'Brien fired since for ages. The Clowney trade was stupid. He's a bum of a coach. Deshaun Watson's could be an MVP if he didn't have Bill O'Brien. But this trade, the Cardinals just went from 5 wins and needing a receiver at the 8th round to giving up nothing for a top 3. And now with their 8th overall pick, they can snag a tackle and arguably can take one of the new. I could think they could take that 3rd wildcard spot because just added that.
You got a washed RB for the best wide receiver in the game.
I just don't get it.
I don't get it either. But I should mention that Nigel and I actually did record a podcast before this whole thing happened, specifically on the free agency, and the file got screwed up so bad that I couldn't use it. So I think Nigel's been bottled up for 3 weeks now trying to talk about this free agency, and we're finally getting to the point where we can do it.
But I don't know, I just don't, I don't know, the trade doesn't make sense to me, especially the fact that Duke Johnson is literally what David Johnson is, a running back who can go wide and catch passes, a versatile, that's what Duke Johnson is, and they traded for him for that reason, and he's cheaper. So now you have a backfield of Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson, and David Johnson. And you have,
mean-
they don't even have a first round pick this year or next year.
No, they
And
don't.
the only consolation they got was fucking Randall Cobb. I love Randall Cobb. He used to be a Packer, great slot receiver, but he's not DeAndre fucking Hopkins. Like,
But really, who would have thought that if you look at it right now, the Miami Dolphins are in a completely better position than the Houston Tech. Who would have thought last year that saying, that team that's pretty much tanking themselves into a good first round pick, the Miami Dolphins, they're going to be better than the Houston Texans are right now.
I think that the Texans are going to probably get rid of J.J. Watt here pretty soon.
Deshaun Watson won't leave.
Oh, yeah.
That argument that Deshaun Watson's going to leave is stupid. And here's why. Everybody's going to say, he can opt into free agency. For quarterbacks, if a team wants to keep them, they can't hit free agency till 8 years after they drafted. With all the franchise tags and that shit.
That being said, Bill O'Brien has such a hot head that if Deshaun Watson were to piss him off on purpose, I feel like he'd be out the door in about 2 days.
Yeah, for half a plate of Waffle House.
Houston's going to strip it down to the bare bones here.
I feel Laramie Tunsil, man.
That Laramie Tunsil trade was good. That was good. You know what the Houston Texans are right now? The Houston Texans' whole franchise is that video that came out before Laramie Tunsil got drafted with that gas mask bong.
That's what I mean, man.
That's their whole franchise.
He hauled that gas mask back out after DeAndre Hopkins was traded away. And looking at what Miami did in free agency, he hauled that puppy out, gave it a couple hauls. That's all he could do.
Can you imagine being oh fuck? Miami got 2 first-round picks out of the guy. What are the odds they just give the Texans one back because they feel bad?
Honestly,
at this point, Miami has picked to dish out as Christmas presents.
Well, they have 7 in. I think it was I read 7 in the first 70. Well, they have 3 in the first round, 2 are in the first 20, and then the Texans is shortly after. Man, Miami lucked out in this trade because now the Texans pick coming in. I don't care how good Deshaun Watson is. That team is fucked. Miami's going to have a top 15 pick for sure.
Man, Tennessee is absolutely laughing right now. The Texans were their only competition last year. I mean, I know that the Colts are a solid team, but now the Titans are just set to roll over the division.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess now we can't really talk more much with this. Bill O'Brien's a hack. Cliff Kingsbury, I think that Arizona offense that averaged 28 points per game last year is going to be even better. Looked out the NFC. I think it's the South. No, it's not the South.
It's the West.
The West. The NFC West is going to birth 3 playoff teams, not named the LA Rams. But I guess we can get into our before we get into our winners or losers. I guess we can start with our own. I say we each do a segment on our own teams. So I'm going to start with the Packers, and right now I honestly have no idea whether we've won or lost because the Packers have had 0 cap space. We cut Jimmy Graham, which I've been waiting for that to happen since last year. But we cut Jimmy Graham. Life's a party. That was good. I was yelling and screaming that day. But then we kind of went bargain bin hunting. We signed Devin Funchess to a 1-year, $2 million deal. I don't know how I feel about that yet. It's a wide receiver, so Packers fans can finally shut up. We did it. But I don't know. He showed good tape. Last year got paid $10 million to break his collarbone. But he has a really, really bad problem with catching. He's only just above 50% catch rate. It's kind of bad. Another thing they did is they let Brian Bulaga, Iowa, go. That hurts. It still hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
we still cry.
He released a video to the Chargers, and he's like, "Hi, it's Brian Bulaga, Iowa," and I was like, "Oh, you fucking asshole."
Yeah.
David Bakhtiari was on Twitter just being like, "Man, that hits different now." But we let him walk because obviously we didn't have the $10 million a year to pay him. He's a great right tackle. He's, I think, going to do great with the Chargers. But we signed former Lions tackle Rick Wagner on a 2-year, $12 million deal. Not bad. I don't know. I feel like the Packers are going to draft right tackle in at least the second round, which I'm okay with. They're good at drafting late and developing guys like David Bakhtiari, Josh Sitton, Elton Jenkins last year, 3rd-round pick, one of the best left guards in the league, only guard not to let up a sack. Balaga was the last first-round tackle we took, first-round lineman. The last signing, the only one I'm high on is we let Blake Martinez, his bum ass, go get $10 million a year from fucking New York. Have fun watching him blow coverages and let guys fall on him at the 8-yard line.
Yeah.
But we signed a guy who nobody knows, but is actually really solid. Linebacker Christian Kirksey. He's been injured the past
I know Christian Kirksey.
Yeah, I've heard of that name.
See, a lot of people don't because he's been injured the past 2 years. The Browns have been irrelevant, but like he was good when the Browns were like
Anyone in
shitty.
the know knows who he is.
Yeah, I
And he's a
remember
good-
back in the day playing the Browns and Madden. He was always one of the 3 highlight players when they were
he's only
drafted.
getting paid $4 million a year. It's a $16 million total, and that's if he hits incentives for like playing. One of them is playing games. This is one thing I love Brian Gutekunst for is like he loads contracts with incentives. So if guys don't work out, it's like kick the can, fuck you. But I like the signing. He's better than Martinez. If he can stay healthy, it's a great signing. If he doesn't,
I think he's
then
much better than Martinez.
it's not hard. Like I don't understand how like I get like you look at the tackles, you're like, oh my god, he's good, and then you watch his film, and you're like, oh my god. But part of that can be blamed on Mike Pettin. Also wanted him fired, but we
Yeah,
won't get
that's
into
hilarious.
that. But I guess either Jacob or Greg, you want to lead into what your team's did?
Yeah, I'll go next, I guess. The Broncos did pretty well actually. We did lose Chris Harris and we lost Derek Wolfe and a couple other like depth.
I think the
depth
Chris
players.
Harris move needed to happen though.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Chris Harris was never going to resign. I feel like after the tweets and everything that came out around week 12 or week 13 of the season, it was pretty clear to everyone that he was never ever going to come. Like he was never going to sign.
Well,
so
he
I think
realized
they
this
can-
tail end of his career may as well go to a team that, like, I'm not saying the Broncos can't contend, but like go to a for sure lock.
Yeah, but I don't think the Chargers are a lock.
I do. I
really don't.
I see a fucking like 180.
I really, really don't. Anyway, that's besides the point. I just feel like that was bound to happen. Is it unfortunate that he went to a team in the same division? Absolutely, yes. But at the same time, we picked up so many defensive pieces,
You
like AJ Bouye,
highway
that we
robbery.
got for a 4th.
Yeah, you bulked up
AC that we got
really
for a
well and
7th.
paid a small price for it.
The Campbell trade, that was a good deal from LA, but like it was also Titan's salary dump. But you guys have a shitload of cap room, so it's a good both way trade, especially for a 7th.
For Casey, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I really like the look of our secondary. When you take Chris Harris out, I mean, of course that is a loss, but Bouye fits
And
very
you-
well into Fangio's system.
You tagged them.
And Simmons, who's a
Yes.
stud. We have Kareem Jackson. We got Callahan on the other side. So I think we're pretty well set. And then we're gonna have Bradley Chubb coming back next year with Vaughn, and then we're gonna have Jarrell Casey. So I think we are very, very solid. We do have to kind of share out that middle linebacker position. Which
You
I'm a
did.
bit
One
worried
thing I
about.
will say about the Broncos, I don't really understand the Melvin Gordon deal, because I think Philip Lindsay could have been paired with like a less expensive veteran or rookie. It just seemed like a bad.
No, but here's my thing. Here's why I like the Melvin Gordon deal. I like it because he wants to stay in the division, right?
Yeah, but you
and-
could have spent that money on like a wide receiver.
Not really when we're going to draft Henry Ruggs in the first round, probably.
That'd be pretty mint.
And
That would be good for you, I guess.
and
Yeah,
possibly, and like the teams that Melvin Gordon had mutual interest with, I'd much rather pay $8 million for, 16 for 2 years to pay Melvin Gordon and have a dual back system with him and Lindsay than watch him go to the Chiefs and have him play with Mahomes and company.
Yeah, I guess you could see it from that angle too.
The only thing
That
I'm
would be
amazed
way worse.
is that Elway hasn't dumped Royce Freeman yet.
Oh, he will. We will. We'll dump him for like a 5th round pick here pretty soon or something.
I'm not going to be entirely surprised if a team like Miami or Atlanta makes a move for a second back, because they both signed injury guys who have had rough injury history.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, I really like our free agency a lot. I will really love the offseason if we do. I would prefer to draft Ruggs with the 15th pick if he's available, because
Because
he
you guys
fits.
signed Glasgow too for a guy.
Exactly, we signed Graham Glasgow, so we shear that up a little bit. Like, I swear to God, though, if Garrett Bowles is a starting left tackle at the beginning of the season, I'm gonna throw a goddamn riot. The guy sucks so bad.
Trade
He
a jar of
sucks so
peanuts.
bad.
Trade a 5th rounder and a jar of peanuts for Laramie Tunzel right now.
Mate, you don't understand how happy that would make me, dude.
That's like we all meme this, but I'm so horrified whenever I see Texans news because I think Bill O'Brien just dumped the team.
Yeah, like that's.
Well, he already did, really. It's just a matter of time before he does the second half of it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. I feel like we have a decent shot of snagging that the 7th seed in the playoffs.
I 100% agree.
Yeah,
If
Drew Lock performs to what he actually is believed to be.
I don't think that Drew Lock performs to what he was doing at the end of the year. Which
No,
is
that's a
playing
bit
at like an
above
elite
it.
level. We also
yeah,
have a
Drew Lock.
fairly easy schedule. We have a pretty
True.
difficult schedule this year in terms of who we play on the road and who we play at Mile High. It's just the thing that I'm worried about is that we're going to get Drew Lock that throws 30 touchdowns but 24 interceptions.
I don't think he will. He wasn't too bad in college.
No, but that was his inconsistency was.
The only bonus is like as much as I trash on Elway. Elway's like, if there's a man you want to learn from, it's Elway.
That's
And
true.
at least
and
he
they
doesn't have to sit behind Joe Flacco's check down and bum ass anymore.
I feel like the Broncos are really well positioned to actually be a contender in the next
Dark horse.
couple of years.
Yeah, you said that the NFC West is set to send 3 teams to the playoffs. I think the AFC West could do it too.
Oh, I 100% agree.
They could.
I guess the final thing I'll say about the Broncos is the now best penis-related nickname in the NFL has left Big Dick Nick Foles and is now horse collared Drew Lock.
Well, it kind of leads into mine, I guess. I mean,
Yeah, it does.
Here we go.
I have never been happier.
so being a Chicago Bears fan, I'm not really sure whether I should laugh, whether I should cry, whether I should have high hopes for the next season. We did make some good ads. I will say that we made some questionable ads, and we made a definite bad one. And I'll just get that right out of the way at the start. Jimmy Graham, we overpaid him, tight end. We needed one.
We don't have a camera, but I'm dancing
You
right
paid you paid Jimmy Graham as much as the Broncos are paying Melvin Gordon, so you
now. You
can.
paid
I
Jimmy
know,
Graham
I
when he
know.
was slated to make already with the Packers.
Yeah, so we made an uh-oh on that. We signed Artie Burns, though. Good defensive back from Pittsburgh. I like that ad. Jordan Lucas, defensive back from Kansas, I think.
You also make me afraid because
And we have Robert Quinn,
yeah,
linebacker,
that's a big one.
Dallas Cowboys. Big ad. The fact that we can, put Khalil, Robert Quinn on the field at the same time. I mean, I'm excited. for that.
Hicks. Yeah,
And Akeem Hicks.
I'm not twice a year.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers with Balaga leaving. Aaron Rodgers is kind of shaking in his boots.
Like if Rick Wagner, he's a good pass pro, but that's it.
It's pretty much, that expression where it's like the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. We're pretty much positioning ourselves to be the immovable object this year because our QB situation is rough.
Yeah, they
And
can't
it
move
kind of
the
leads
ball.
me into my next point is about the signing of Nick Foles. Am I excited about it? I don't hate the move. I know exactly what it was trying to do. It's a half-assed attempt at making Trubisky work a bit harder and trying to strike some fear into him before they actually remove him.
It's just you wait 4 days and you get Cam Newton for less money on free agency.
That's what hurts.
Well, an $8 million cap hit in 2020. I mean, we could have paid way more, like $17 million for Teddy Bridgewater, or $20 million this. Like
Teddy would have fit in so well to your offense too. That's
Andy Dalton was $17 million, and Teddy Bridgewater was like $20.
I forgot Andy Dalton's making that much money.
Yeah, Andy Dalton makes a lot of money, so it would have been hard for us to justify paying those guys with the money that we're already paying Trubisky with a $9.2 million cap hit. So for $9.2 million cap hit and Trubisky's the backup now, we're throwing money at the QB position, and we don't even know if it's going to work.
The Jags ate up that $30 million, which was nice.
Exactly. So Nick Foles coming in to actually push Trubisky a little bit, and maybe he shines in Chicago. I don't think he will, but if he does come out and plays a good season as our backup or moves into the starter position, then I think the deal's worth it, because, I mean, an $8 million playing cap hit, we're not really obligated to hold on to him in the future as far as I'm concerned. Like,
there's just two worries. Do you get Eagles playoff Nick, or do you get St. Louis Rams Nick and Jacksonville Jaguars Nick, who got benched for an 80s porn star?
I mean, that's the risk, obviously, you have to take into account. But think of what we paid. We paid a 4th round pick for this.
Yeah, I don't necessarily hate it because you didn't give up a lot. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like Trubisky's going to get the starting job anyway.
They want him to get the starting job because they don't want to admit defeat on their off-the-board pick. But is Trubisky actually going to perform to that, shocking off-the-board pick, comes back and does what he was supposed to do originally, sort of? Is he going to surprise people this year? Probably not. He's probably going to play the same way, maybe a little bit better and win a couple more games, but he's going to be a disappointment. As far I believed in Trubisky for a while, and I was actually pretty ignorant about it, because I was like, listen, you can't just take this season and last season and say this is the quarterback he's never going to progress from this point. Now I'm starting to get a bit worried, because last year I understand that our O-line is lacking.
Yeah.
And it really sucks for Trubisky, because if he had a better O-line, maybe he'd actually play to a higher standard of football. But you just got to be better,
I think it's going to come down to the Bears front office having to ultimately make a decision, Nagy or Trubisky.
Well, Nagy wants Foles. Nagy wants Foles. He doesn't want Trubisky at all. That's, and I think last season was indicative of that, because the season before he had the same team pretty much, and we thought this past season we were going to do great things. We thought, the double doink cursed us, man, but we're going to come back and we're going to make the playoffs, and we're going to show people that the Bears can actually compete with Trubisky like we thought we could. And this happens, given Nagy's play calling's more aggressive.
I feel like you might need another offensive threat.
Oh, 100%.
You need
on the outside
a tight end. Because you need a tight end, and Jimmy Graham's not it. Trubisky,
well, yes.
I don't want to hate on the guy because he gives me a lot of fun to watch him
some juicy
throw interceptions and get sacked and shit. But if you would have just not signed Jimmy Graham, and honestly, I think you had a better tight end before. If you get Trubisky weapons, he could probably perform at
Trey Burton is way better than Jimmy Graham.
The slightly below Kirk Cousins level, but I don't know. I don't want to see him fail, because I'd rather play him than a competent quarterback twice a year. But
yes,
I
really think we overpaid, and everybody else in the league does. Anybody who watches football does. But there's always that outside chance that he actually plays decent, and I can't really. I will judge him on his past in Green Bay because I made fun of him when he was on the Packers,
Boy, did you
and
ever.
now he's on my team. But maybe the season hasn't been played yet, where he's on the Chicago Bears. So maybe he comes and surprises me, and I'll be like, okay, I'm kind of indifferent to Jimmy Graham now. But I really doubt that's going to happen. I really think it's a bad move by us.
Now that we
picked up your garbage, man.
I love it. It makes me happy. I guess now,
get to the other teams.
Yeah, we'll move into teams that we have no bias towards for our winners and losers. Well, I say no bias. I have bias towards one of these teams. The team I'm going to mention first. Bias is in. They're my favorite team in the AFC, and I'm like a closet fan. So let's start off with the team. I'm going to talk about the Buffalo Bills, and the first thing I'm going to say is for anybody who watched Twitter the night this happened, the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, tweeted a very big sentence, well, a small sentence, 2 words, a lot of meaning. Ya dig. Stephon Diggs, now out of Minnesota. Thank fuck. Don't have to play him anymore. Now a Buffalo Bill. Ooh. I think Buffalo is a big winner in free agency.
I think Buffalo is a 2 seed in the AFC.
They lost some guys like
Buffalo win.
They lost Shaq Lawson, who was never horrible, was never great, but they've bolstered up that secondary. Josh Norman's going back with Sean McDermott. Josh Norman gets clowned on a lot, but he was also his best years were under McDermott. He now doesn't have to be cornerback 1. He's gonna play second or third fiddle after Trey White. They've signed some other secondary guys. Obviously, trading Minnesota.
Everyone forgets about Micah Hyde.
I don't, because he used to be a fucking Packer, and now he's good. Yeah, another team I'm going to talk about has another Packer that is good now. Yeah, anyway, but and they also have Jordan Poyer. That Buffalo Bills defense was 3rd in yards allowed, 2nd in points allowed. I think it's going to be 2nd best defense total in the league next year, possibly 1st. It's really good. I think Josh Allen continues to improve.
Josh Allen is a cannon. I mean, I can see Buffalo seriously competing after they pretty much exercised their demons. What I believe they exercised their demons this year. That team has been a sorry factory of sadness, as you'd like to say, Nigel, for a long time. Another
thing, love Frank Gore to death. The ageless wonder Frank Gore is no longer a Bill, so rookie, I guess sophomore now, Devin Singletary will have big time to shine. I think he's going to have a great year.
I really hope he doesn't get hurt.
They have now the only loss is they don't have a first-round pick, because unlike the Texans, Minnesota understands how to market a wide receiver, and they were able to get a first for Diggs. But I still think that's fine. I think in the second round.
That's fine for them.
That's a fair trade of 2 teams that have different needs, and they literally just swapped them.
I easily think right now, second round, they either take an offensive lineman. I think that's a for sure lock. And then maybe 3rd round, they take a backup tight end for when Tyler Kroft eventually retires. But that defensive front, Ed Oliver last year, great draft pick. I think he's going to have a really big year as an interior lineman. The linebacker, Trey White, my opinion, best corner in the league. Trey White, Goalie Academy, going to have another great year. I'm really excited. I think Buffalo takes the AFC East for sure now, but I think Buffalo takes a big step up and has a big year.
I think they take the East in an absolute landslide.
Yeah.
There's no way that any of the teams.
I'd hate, as a Packers fan, I hate playing the Bears defense twice a year, but playing that defense twice a year is terrifying.
Especially when your quarterback's Jarrett Stidham.
Apparently, they're committed to him too.
The difference between them and the Bears is the fact that they have a good quarterback that can keep the offense on the field for a long enough time that the defense on their team can get a breather. Our defense sucks sometimes because Trubisky's just garbage.
A team that both Jacob and Greg want to talk about. We'll stay in the AFC East. Why don't you guys both want to talk about Miami, the Miami money.
Miami money is being spent and
has exercised the money from the 80s Coke trade and spent it all.
Literally, Miami's just one of these teams that I like seeing do well. I don't know what it is about them. I don't know if it's their uniforms. I literally don't know what it is.
This is why we like watching the Bills and the Dolphins play well.
They're underdogs.
It's because they've been under the Patriots for so goddamn long.
Exactly.
That the fact that they're better than them now is blasphemous to think about. It's blasphemous.
Yes.
Watching them seal the Patriots' fate in that final game last year, watching Fitzmagic do its thing, and the only bonus the Dolphins have, they still Fitzmagic, so when they draft a quarterback, he doesn't have to start.
Exactly.
They picked up Kyle Van Noy, Byron Jones, Shaq Collins. No, Jamie Collins went to the.
Oh, sorry, that's my bad. I got him Van Noy.
But they picked up.
They got Jordan Howard.
Man, yeah, Jordan Howard. That was a nice signing. The only thing, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, he's still fine in Pittsburgh, but he's probably like shit.
Classic Laramie Tunsil thing, same thing.
But I think Miami.
Cornerback duo in Xavier Howard and Byron Jones.
Well, I don't know if Xavier Howard's going to play after he had that domestic violence thing. I don't know how that works.
Yikes.
I forgot about that.
But they still nice. Right. They have a really nice veteran safety in Rashad Jones. Super smart.
But I mean, if we know the NFL, he will be playing.
Yes, because as long as he doesn't go on Twitter and be a head case, he'll be fine.
Yeah. Shit, I forgot about that. Damn.
Just don't talk about the refs, and you're okay.
Pretty much.
And Devontae Parker, who Adam Gase wouldn't start, looks like a stud.
Devontae Parker is like a top 2-tier wide receiver in the league.
He's nuts. And at the fact that Adam Gase wouldn't start him, I don't get. But I think Miami could sneak into one of the if the reports are true and Miami trades up to Cincinnati for that number 1 and takes Joseph Burrow, the man, the myth, the legend.
Imagine Joe Burrow in a Miami Dolphins uniform. How crazy that would be.
Can you imagine Joe Burrow not going to the poverty Bengals and actually being able to have a career? That'd be so nice.
I mean, if the Bengals took Tua, when do you think Tua's going?
Honestly, the way I've envisioned my mock draft, and this is if the Redskins are intelligent, they make enough noise about taking Tua that they force. What's likely what they're going to do is Miami's going to trade up for the number 1 because they're with that much spending, you're in win now mode. They're going to make enough noise that the Chargers are like, okay, let's move up to the number 2, take Tua. And then the Bengals are going to sit back. The Redskins are going to go back. The Redskins are going to be fine. They're going to go back. They're going to go back. They're going to work it so they go back and they still can land Chase Young somehow. Or actually what they do is they probably still take Chase Young. I lied. And then the 3 pick goes to the Chargers. They take Tua. The 4 pick stays at the Giants. They're probably going to take, if they're smart, they take Isaiah Simmons. The 5 pick is now the Bengals, who draft Herbert. The 6th pick is now the Lions, and they still take Jeff Okudah. That's how
Am I the only person who thinks that, yes, although the prospect of Miami trading up for the first pick from Cincinnati would be good for the Dolphins, I think it's completely lopsided in the Dolphins' favor, getting Joe Burrow plus on top of what all they've already spent in free agency. I really think that Cincinnati, no matter how you frame it, is losing that.
If the
situation.
Bengals are a smart franchise, they should take Chase Young and wait for Trevor Lawrence.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Do you remember when I said that 3 months ago?
You did. Chase Young is the best overall prospect in this draft. It's kind of like Kyler Murray and Nick Bosa last year.
It's kind of not even close.
Nick Bosa was the best prospect in the draft last year, but Arizona, I'm not saying they needed Kyler Murray. They needed something.
Oh, yeah, no, he was definitely more of a need than Bosa. And it's
kind of the same thing in Cincinnati. Well, of course, I don't know, but Cincinnati's okay, we need a new quarterback. But Chase Young is just so dynamic. We've never seen.
Nick Bosa showed us what a dominant defensive end could come in and do in year 1, and I think that Chase Young can not only do the same thing, but even possibly something better.
I actually think this is gonna sound nuts. I think Chase Young in the Bengals is his dream destination. He gets to play along with Geno Atkins, one of the best defensive tackles in the league, Carlos Dunlap, who's like a middle of the road DN but solid. You now can't force a double team onto Chase Young because you've got two other guys to worry about. He goes to Washington. Congrats, he has nobody. He is
Ryan
Yeah, you're
Kerrigan?
right.
He's got Ryan Kerrigan, but Ryan Kerrigan's old as
That's
fuck.
But like he's gonna have nobody.
No, and Dan
He's
Snyder
going
kills
to.
everything he touches.
He
going
might
to be
have
triple
somebody
teamed on every
initially, but he'll be alone.
Like this draft is going to be really interesting. There's so
I don't know.
much.
I still think that if Cincinnati trades their first overall pick, could they make it
I think
work?
they're
And
smart to do
Could they? I don't know, man.
I personally
yes.
don't think they should take because they can get a haul. Like if they're smart, they take a haul for that number one pick, and they build for a future. Because they're not going to, even if they take Joe Burrow, they're not going to win now.
Here's the thing. The Dolphins need a couple of things. They need a quarterback. They need some interior linemen, right?
Tight end.
A tight end.
Problem is
Mike
this tight end
super
class
young,
sucks.
But
This tight end class sucks too.
and you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, they need just about everything.
Yeah.
So
That's
Cincy
They
would
legitimately
way
need everything.
because
AJ's not going to stay.
outside of
for
wide
long.
receiver, where if John Ross could stop getting injured, they do have Tyler Boyd, John Ross. They let Eifert walk at tight end.
They've got money to spend though. Like if they could get their
They
QB
won't.
situation figured out and sell Andy Dalton.
My man, but who's going to want to go there?
Like everybody.
Well,
in the
once you
room
have
trash
Joe
talks
Burrow
that
and AJ
organization.
Green, then you use your money. That's what money's for. You say, "We have money. Come here."
But their training facility, their trainers and their training facility, like that's how AJ Green got injured. They have an awful training field and he fucked his ankle. Like it's kind of like the Detroit thing where, well, I guess players sometimes want to go to Detroit, but like they fucking stink. And they won't change.
Yeah.
They're so stuck in their ways that they continue to stink.
Yeah, I don't see a positive future in the Bengals if they honestly, even if they take Burrow. The way that they work and the way that they're so goddamn incompetent that I just don't see it playing out for them.
Well, the problem with the Cincinnati Bengals is that they're not on the same level as the New York Knicks, where like the New York Knicks are the most valuable NBA team without doing well whatsoever in the past 30 years of basketball.
Yeah.
But they still make enough money to be like, why do we have to spend any?
They can
to make
stay relevant.
if we're doing better than breaking even, then we're already winning with no team in front of us.
In my way,
I
there's
think
two ways of sucking. There's the Miami way of sucking last year where you tank, and everybody talks about you, so you kind of make
There's
money out of
intentional
tanking.
sucking, and then there's systematic
And then there's
sucking.
the Cincinnati sucking, where you suck, but you suck so much nobody talks about how much you suck, because you're not trying to suck. You're just bad.
And you have one of the worst coach hirings in the past 10 years.
Yeah, Zach Taylor was one of those impulse. Oh, he was under Sean McVay. I need to hire him. Like, I guess we'll move on here to one of the teams who I think lost. And this is a reference to anybody who knows a quarterback named Mark Sanchez. The Jets butt fumbled free agency. And I mean butt
nothing.
fumbled. Like,
New York football, the New York Guardians are the best team
nah, the
in the
Bills.
city.
You know what's funny is the Bills actually play in New York. Like the Jets
Yes.
and the Giants both practice and play in New Jersey.
Yes,
But besides
that is
that-
true.
What the fuck? Like what? Who is Sam? Jamison Crowder is your number one. You got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding. Yeah, they have Le'Veon, but Le'Veon looked like hot shit last year, like awful. I guess they're kind of addressing their O-line, maybe. But their defense still sucks, and the guy they
I love that
drafted-
your description of their free agency was they just butt fumbled.
Well, literally, I
I love
watched
that
it.
you dug up that reference. and
Well, because
it's
like
just-
when I think about it, literally, I watched the Jets logo have a football and run into the ass of a something and just let the fucking free agency walk. Like, you failed to re-sign Robbie Anderson. Okay, what should you do? Go sign another wide receiver? No, do nothing. Your number one is now a old slot receiver.
Jamison Crowder is not even a top, I don't know, 75 in the league.
Can you imagine if they got to D-Hop before the Cardinals did?
I mean, like, it's just they've done nothing on defense. Their best defensive player is still C.J. Mosley. Okay, you have.
I'm talking about like if D-Hop went to a team that couldn't service him. Like, even if the Jets did get D-Hop, yeah, they'd have D-Hop, but they'd have nothing else. But
after 2 years of Sam Darnold, I was high off him on year one, but last year, I'm not as high on Sam Darnold.
No, he's seeing ghosts.
They had a real easy end of the year schedule, and they were like, "Oh, we went 7-9." Like, fuck, shut up! You should have tanked.
You also stole a game from the Cowboys.
Yes, that is funny as shit. Yeah, but you know where they stole that? Robbie Anderson went 92 yards and burned because they have no safety.
And Zeke on my fantasy team screwed me.
Jamal Adams had probably the best game of his career.
I guess I forgot Jamal Adams. I guess is their best defensive player, but like they almost dealt him at the fucking deadline. Jamal Adams, in my opinion, is the best safety in the NFL right now.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. You can make an argument out of that.
But like the worst is like I honestly think the Jets finished bottom of that division. Even with the Patriots losing everybody, I just think the Jets are so incompetent. Like I had so much hype for them last year. I was like, man, they brought in Le'Veon, who I didn't realize was gonna. Maybe he shouldn't have focused on his rap career, but that's beyond the point. Jamison Crowder would have been a great
to Castro,
to Robbie Anderson, like all this stuff that looks so good, and then they just fucked the dog. Like, and it's not getting better. Like, I can't imagine wanting to be a Jets fan.
I don't know why Le'Veon didn't go to Indianapolis.
Seeing what Adam Gase did in Miami, which was shit the bed. Being like, let's hire him. We're watching him shit the bed for you and being like, he deserves another job.
I mean, a lot of people associate the Jets' failures with the Giants because New York football is shitty in both respects right now, but at least the Giants have actually done something in the last decade.
The Jets' leading passer is still Joe Namath.
The Jets' sole purpose is to keep the Patriots fans sane when they go out and beat them 17-13 twice a year.
Much.
Like I like their new uniforms look so good. And I was like, man, Sam Darnold, they're doing stuff right. And then I don't even think Sam Darnold's that bad. I just don't think he has no help.
He's probably depressed playing for the Jets.
Him and Deshaun Watson right now are probably both calling each other, curled up in the corner crying, why doesn't my coach love me? Fuck.
The Jets need to clean house, in my opinion.
The Jets need to fire Adam Gase. Yeah. The fact that Adam Gase's picture and Madden are both of his eyes going different fucking directions is why this man doesn't need a job.
Exactly what you mean.
He looks like somebody he looks like he did a solid bunch of heroin, and someone's like, "Hey, Adam, we need a picture." And he's like, "Oh." That's the only way I can describe that picture. If you haven't seen it, Google it. Just Google
Nigel's analogies are not lost even over a remote communication.
Google Adam Gase Madden 20 picture. Oh my god! You will laugh for hours.
Live view of Nigel coming out of the womb.
A team I want to talk about in the losers category. Not the butt fumble franchise, but I just spent all my money and we're not going to be good this year franchise. And that is the Los Angeles Rams. Very literal description of what happened, but it happened.
They re-signed Wentworth at left tackle. Good idea, because Jared Goff was getting screwed.
And I have nothing against Jared Goff. In fact, I like Jared Goff.
I like Jared Goff as well.
I think he's better than people give him credit for. Last year, everybody shits on him, but he also had no running game, no offensive line. It was awful. But yeah, no, they have nothing. They got Michael Brockers back only because he couldn't agree to terms with the Ravens. That's the only reason they got him back.
We were saying they could actually win 4 games this year.
That might be a stretch.
If they go low, I think their best It's a shame because Sean McVay is such a smart guy. I think they never should have fired Wade Phillips. They cut Clay Matthews. I get it, but I don't. Mm-hmm. He was serviceable because you had guys like Michael Brockers, Aaron Donald, and did they have Robert Quinn? Yeah.
Yeah,
they did.
And no, I thought Robert Quinn was a Cowboy at the end of it.
You know he was, but they had him.
No, it was Dante Fowler Jr.
Oh, you're right.
I don't know. Anyways, they had people who could distract, and Clay could still go in. I like Clay. Loved him when he was a Packer, but we've moved on. It's fine. But and they released Todd Gurley, which I get. I
can understand that one at least.
The Todd Gurley cut. They couldn't trade him because nobody wanted that cap. Like, no one wanted that contract. But that's the problem. They guaranteed him so much money. They're still taking like $10 million a year in cap hit for the next 2 years, and they cut him. And he's getting paid $6 million to go play in Atlanta.
Yeah, and I love that signing for Atlanta. I really do.
Oh, I do too if they can get him a complimentary back.
Yeah, exactly.
Because arthritis is a bitch.
I'm looking at the Rams schedule, and there are definitely some winnable games. Like, they got the Redskins, they've got the Redskins, they've got the Jets, they got the Giants, they've got I honestly think they steal one of the games against the Cardinals. And then they could. I think honestly
they scout the cow. I mean, Seattle last year, one of the two games.
They played the Patriots once, and then they play the Bears once, which would go either way. Like, this is a team that could go 3-13, but they could also mess around and go 7-9, 6-10.
It's just, and the only other thing now, Brandon Cooks wants out.
I mean, 4 games is a bit of a stretch, I think. I mean, it's an exaggeration of what they did into what the record for next year is going to be. But, I mean, really, they could be like a 6-win team next year. Brandon Cooks, another after
problem.
Everything they've done.
I think they'll go 6-10.
They now want to trade Brandon Cooks. Again, problem with the contract, and he's had 5 concussions. You now, after this year, are going to have to pay Jalen Ramsey a handful. And you have no first-round picks till 2022.
Do you pay Ramsey that handful if you're them?
If I'm the Rams, I don't. But if they don't, somebody else will.
I know, but is it better to trade him and get some picks?
I'd trade him and get some picks.
The problem is they gave up so much for him.
That's what I mean.
You have
to recoup some of that, though.
When you gave up, I think they gave up 2 firsts. You now have to. You have to commit to that.
I think we've come to like a consensual agreement that Aaron Donald, Sam Darnold, Deshaun Watson, they're the real losers of free agency.
They are individual losers of free agency.
I'm going to talk about this, and this is a move they did during the season. They fired Wade Phillips as defensive coordinator. Dumbest thing I think they ever did. I hate it. I wanted the Packers to fire Pettin and hire him. Wade Phillips is one of the better defensive coordinators in the league. Huge, really, really good defensive coordinator, and they canned him when they were like 7-8. Like, their inconsistent offense wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
I just remember watching that Bears-Rams game, and that made me want to gouge my eyes out.
Oh, yeah.
That Sunday Night Football game where Trubisky got benched.
Yeah,
that was on prime time. Like, fuck.
One of the teams that just changed up a little bit. One of the teams that I think lost in free agency, and oddly enough, it is not because of the obvious. I think the New England Patriots lost in free agency.
See, we're both in agreement on this. I don't think it's because of Brady. I think it's because of the defense.
I don't think it's because of Brady. I think it's because of Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy, who knows what Dante Hightower is going to do.
They still have one of the best secondaries in the league with Gilly, the McCourty twins, and Cocaine Chung.
They're going to get ran all over.
They did last year. The Browns did it. Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry.
Like when they started to get beat.
A bunch of guys realized,
they were bad last year. I mean, there's going to be worse this year.
But I don't hate the Brady move. I don't understand. Like, he's 40,
No, it's
42.
good for the organization, and I feel like
It's good for the organization, but it's bad for the organization.
It looks bad.
It looks bad how they
Yeah,
did
it
it.
But I also don't think the Bucks are like everybody thinks the Bucks are better off. Yeah, you're gonna get less picks, but you're awful. Like at least Jameis could like do some maneuvering around that awful low line. Brady's
also
gonna get
got
rocked.
a wicked hard
No
schedule,
running
dude.
back and an awful offensive line. Brady's gonna get rocked. I don't care how good OJ Howard, Godwin, and Mike Evans are. They can't get the ball. Brady didn't have time to throw it.
The only decent O-lineman they got over there is Pence in the center.
Yeah, and the center doesn't protect. They have to play so many good edge rushers. They got to play Cam Jordan twice a year. They've got to play the guy that they've got to play.
Man, even Bucks fans aren't happy about it.
Like they've got to play. I mean, I wouldn't have kept Jameis, but I wouldn't have gone for Brady. But they have to play Burns, the guy the Panthers had drafted last year, twice a year. Who else is in that division? They've got to play now. Who did Atlanta sign? Atlanta signed a big name.
The Broncos play them one game, and Von Miller and Chubb and Casey are going to have a field day.
Well, that's like the Packers. Brady now has to run from Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, and Kenny Clark.
I mean, I think this deal at the end of the day just kind of proves something, and it proves that Bill Belichick, well, he obviously runs the franchise in New England, but it just proves to me that the way it was handled and the way that Brady kind of recounts it as being handled, as him almost disagreeing on a personal level with Bill Belichick, forcing him out of the organization. Is this how you reward a franchise quarterback who has been with your team through its many victories? But Brady didn't originally want to do this. Everybody realizes that.
You can argue the reason the Patriots have 6 Super Bowls is because Bill Belichick's philosophy of the Patriot way, the highway.
Oh, I completely agree. Bill Belichick is
argument. I think that's a fact.
Like Wes Welker, who was a top wide receiver when they traded him, fell off.
No, I would completely agree with that.
And you look at Jamie, we talked about the Jamie Collins moving. I remember when Jamie Collins left when he wanted more money, Bill traded him to Cleveland. He went in Cleveland, stunk.
No, I completely agree with that, Nigel. But this is a situation where it's it's not the thing that markets the McDonald's franchise, the McDonald's restaurant franchise, is the big golden M. It's not the owner himself. It's the vision of the company. It's the trademark of the company. And Tom Brady is that trademark of the Patriots. Yeah. And that's how he should be treated. He should be treated like an essential piece of the franchise, and he should be treated as someone who retired. Like you're a victim of it yourself, almost, Nige, because Martin Brodeur wasn't accepted back by the New Jersey Devils, and he went out to St. Louis and played 3 games and then
he
retired.
Was like, shit.
Yeah, it's almost closure. It's closure that they needed to have with Tom Brady, where he could say, I'm going to play my last game in New England, and I'm going to play my first game in New England, and I'm going to have such a great legacy left behind here. But it's almost like there's a bitter taste in their mouths, at least in Tom Brady's mouth now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You guys want to hear the Patriots' schedule?
It's fucked.
Minus their division. They got the Texans, which is winnable. Then they got the Chiefs, the Chargers,
Broncos, Raiders,
the Rams, the Broncos, Raiders, the Cardinals, 49ers, Ravens, and Seahawks. Oh, baby.
Yeah, that's
why they out here going 6-10.
They're
going to get a reality check this year is what they're going to get.
One good move they did make was re-signing Devin McCourty. That was a good one. Besides that,
yeah, that was. Ooh. If they messed that up, then he literally was so down to come back. That would have been such a slap in the mouth if they were just like, no.
Yeah,
especially when
this year is going to be it's going to be the proving grounds for how great of a coach Bill Belichick really is, now that he has absolutely nothing to work with.
And they have no cap space either. I don't know where all their cap space is.
I want them to do good so that people will finally realize that Brady isn't all that in a bag of chips, bud.
I guess to move on to back to the positive, a team that I really liked is a division rival of Greg, who I think did a major winning this offseason, the Los Angeles Chargers. They have
they
no
did already.
fans, but they had a really nice offseason. They diced the Panthers, traded Russell Okung, who's a really good tackle, but is a lot older, for a really young guard in Trey Turner. They replaced Okung with Brian Blug at Iowa. They finally giving an O-line to whoever plays QB. Right now it's Tyrod Taylor. The signing of Chris Harris, I think that defense comes back to how it was in the year 2 years ago when they went 14-2, because you now have Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram rushing you from the sides. In your secondary, you now have Casey Hayward, former Packer, who's now playing really good. Derwin James and Chris Harris.
Yeah, that just turned into 3-inch Drew Lock.
Like, like the Chargers, I liked Phillip Rivers. I mean, he's gone, but that was necessary. Old man Rivers needed a new scenery. I think they draft, but I don't hate them riding with Tyrod Taylor. I don't hate it. Anthony Lynn wants a mobile quarterback. I think they might go sign Cam. I don't know. The problem, I don't think Cam's going to be signed for a while, because right now there's no way to do a physical with COVID. So you don't know how good Cam is. Like, you don't know how healthy he is. He's
reliant on a physical. His sale is reliant on a physical.
Big time. So if they can get to a point where they can work players out, I think Cam might get a deal. I think Brady would have been better off there, personally. Because they still, like, Brady would have been set. Like, Brady has Hunter Henry, a good tight end he wants, an O-line now, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and a defense. Instead, he went to Tampa Bay, where he has two good wide receivers and a tight end.
It would have got them ticket sales, which is what they need desperately.
And they also got Eckler, who played really well last year, for dirt cheap. They're paying Eckler like $6 million a year.
I just can't wait for Melvin Gordon to go off for about 200 yards one of the games we play them this year.
I like what the Chargers did. They're they made a lot of moves.
They really well.
They didn't do any moves I didn't like, and that was a big thing.
I think we split games with them next year.
I agree.
I think we take one.
Like, Green Bay swept the division this year. The odds that happens are slim to none. Again, like, it's so hard to sweep a division because that team knows you so well.
Yeah, I think that Vic Fangio's defense can shut down that offense completely.
It was still a top 10 unit. Like, nobody talks about that. That was still, without Bradley Chubb, was a top 10 unit last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Chargers, I think, did really well. I think the Chargers bounce back, make the playoffs again. I can see it.
Yeah.
And then I guess a final team I want to talk about that I think won are the Indianapolis Colts. We found out last year Jacoby Brissett wasn't it. Doesn't surprise me.
I think that's such a quick. I don't know if
he didn't play well when he was brought into play while Andrew Luck was injured. He never played great. And I mean, like, he had a few good games last year.
For the first 6-7 games of the year, he was playing at an MVP candidate level.
He was.
And then he shat himself.
And he got hurt.
But then he came back. But you also have to look at the fact that
T.Y. Hilton had a shit year.
Yeah, but I think the Colts. I like Phillip Rivers. I like the signing of Phillip Rivers. I think Phillip Rivers has more in the tank than people give it credit for. The Colts have a really nice O-line.
I mean, you can see the move to get Phillip Rivers on the Colts as a patch fix for the quarterback.
But the big thing I like is they have a really underrated defense. And they made a big trade for
adding Buckner with Darius Leonard and
there's also, people forget that their safety Malik Hooker got injured last year, and Malik Hooker is a really, really, really good, a really solid safety.
I would just like to point out when Brissett's level of play went down is when Marlon Mack got hurt, and they were relying on their third string running back.
They've got Marlon Mack, Jack Doyle. They could let Ebron walk because they have Jack Doyle. I think in the second round they drafted a wide receiver to complement T.Y. But
I've always thought T.Y. was overrated, but that's just my personal opinion.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that too.
I mean, your stats, like when you have Andrew Luck, a lot of things can happen, but their O-line can make a lot of quarterbacks look far better than they are, and that's the reason I think Philip Rivers is going to do fine. Because they, last year the Chargers had no O-line. This year Phil has, someone to stand in front of him. But I really like that move for Buckner on the defense. I love it.
I do too. I think that's a really good.
A good O-line in Indianapolis really helps the fact that Phil Rivers is older too. I mean, you don't want an old quarterback.
Just imagine if they did this for Andrew Luck. Imagine if Jim Irsay wasn't like, "Hey, Andrew Luck, I'm going to."
Yeah, they did it 5 years too late.
An open door in front of you and let you break every bone in your body, and then act surprised when you're like, "Man, football hurts."
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I feel like it's just kind of typical of football though. Like you don't talk about that kind of situation or that kind of problem until it actually comes up, and then you're like, fuck, we should have done something about this 5 years ago.
But yeah, that's the team I like. Is there any more teams you guys want to talk about?
I kind of wanted to briefly touch on another team that I think low-key had a really good free agency, and I think that's the New Orleans Saints.
I agree.
Because they lost Teddy Bridgewater, but that was inevitable. They re-signed Drew Brees to 2 years, and I think he can still provide a really good.
I think Drew Brees really has a good season this year.
Yeah, so do I.
I think he has a good season, but I don't think Drew is going to MVP Drew. He's not
going to MVP Drew, but he's going to be a top good
quarterback
piece.
Drew.
Oh, 100% agree.
So they kept Drew, but then they added Emmanuel Sanders to be a really, really nice complimentary piece to Mike Evans.
You've got Ted Ginn as your deep threat. You've got Ted Ginn as your deep threat.
I
Sanders in the slot. Did he? I don't think he did.
I thought he did.
But another thing I like they did is as much as I clown on Taysom Hill because he's not a starting quarterback, he thinks he is, he's not. They were smart to play a first-round tender on him. Because now nobody will sign him. He'll have to sign back for cheap. And Sean Payton knows how to use him.
Yeah. Another pickup that I like.
He'll be used how he's supposed to be used.
Yeah. The only other coach that would use him like he's supposed to be used is Belichick.
A lot of Packers fans are like, oh, we could have had Taysom Hill, but he got cut. And I'm like, Mike McCarthy had no idea what to do with that. Mike McCarthy had no idea what to do with Aaron fucking Rodgers, let alone Taysom Hill.
Yeah. I also like the pickup of Malcolm Jenkins.
Me too. They brought him home.
I know he's old, but he's still better than what they had.
Big time.
He's still providing.
They've got him and the Williams guy who let Diggs get that Minneapolis miracle. They still have Marshawn Lattimore, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan. Their O-line both their tackles are really good.
Yeah.
And Ramczyk and Armstead. Jared Cook is an underrated tight end. I like the Saints. I hate saying that because I play them, but I like the Saints.
I like the Saints. I really do. I think they're a top 3 seed in the NFC again.
The NFC is so good, man. The fact that 3 teams went 11-3 last year, that's so fun.
Yeah, the NFC is also very top heavy.
But I wouldn't say that because every single playoff team except for the NFC
they were
East,
top heavy last year.
Had 10 wins. The Vikings had 10, and they could have had 11, but they benched everybody when they played the Bears.
I'm glad that the Saints got rid of Eli Apple. Go fuck yourself. He's such an idiot, man. I hate Eli Apple.
He talks shit he doesn't get burned constantly.
Wow, you boys want to know who just got signed back into the NFL?
Aaron Armstead?
You want to remember this name?
What?
Alden Smith.
Holy shit.
Alden Smith. Oh,
yeah, I just got that
1
notification.
year, $4 million to the Dallas Cowboys.
Huh.
God, Jerry Jones just loves the abusers, doesn't he?
Speaking of the Cowboys, I think I got one more loser to talk about. I don't know. Do you guys have any more winners you guys want to touch on?
No, I'm good.
The last
loser. Should probably move on soon, though.
Yeah, this is the last team I want to talk about, and this makes me and Jake happy. I think the Vikings lost. The Vikings sold their entire defense to extend Mr. No Monday. 0-12, sucks ass in prime time, definition of mediocre, and you sold Everson Griffin, Linval Joseph, and Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes should have been cut. He played like shit. Everson Griffin.
That's the one positive about this free agency that's like completely positive for the Bears is that the Vikings they kind of butt fumble too.
I don't like. I get Linval Joseph. They replaced with Michael Pierce. Still a good run stuffer.
That's a very like.
That's a 1-for-1
replacement. Yeah,
but losing Everson Griffin, I don't get it. Him and Daniil Hunter were so good together, and they just let him walk. Like, and they also traded Diggs, so they have 2 first-round picks. They're likely going to go corner receiver. You don't have to hope both of those work. You still have Adam Thielen, but Dalvin Cook has yet to play 16 games in a season.
Dalvin Cook's still elite.
He is. If you get last year Dalvin Cook, yeah, but if you get 6-game Dalvin Cook, which has happened 2 years,
I think you hate on the Vikings.
I do. But I just don't see, like, they sold a lot to give 2 more years to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Like, you now have to bank on draft picks working.
I personally like Kirk Cousins a lot more than you do. Not saying he's good. Don't get me wrong.
Well, if the Bears had Kirk Cousins, I'd be like rejoicing.
That's what I mean.
Like, literally.
I just
That's
don't
exactly
understand.
He's a good quarterback. He is good quarterback.
But he's not
He has problems.
that much money good.
He's
He's
top
not that much
15
money good.
No, but I don't think that's fair to him to judge his play off what he's paid. That's not his fault that he got the bread, man.
Yeah, but I'm judging the Vikings off that. Like, the Vikings paid a guy who...
Not his fault he got the bread, man.
You can judge the Vikings on that all day long. You can do that as much as you want, but you can't judge Kirk Cousins off that. If you ask him, is he worth what he's getting paid, he'd probably tell you hell no.
Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback who's objectively bad in high-stress situations.
It's not objectively.
I think that Kirk Cousins is an above-average quarterback, and I think that there's a chance that if he were in a right position and in the right system, that he could have great success. And I don't think him in Minnesota was bound to work out from the jump.
I
would agree with that.
Yeah, it was a lot of money, too. Like, I think they'd have been better off the draft.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins was probably sitting in his basement when he got the call and the offer from the Vikings. He probably shit his pants.
To be fair, that guy had to play in Washington, so like anything he's better in Washington. I'd have been if someone had if I was a quarterback in Washington and someone said, "Hey, $5, you can come play for me," I'd have been like, "Fuck yeah, let's go!" Like,
yeah,
get me out of here.
He's getting paid dirt in Washington as well.
I guess we should probably move on. We've been talking about this for a fucking hot minute.
An hour.
An hour and 6 minutes and 35 seconds.
And I drank my only beer, so
Nigel's at a beer.
It's a rough life.
All I really wanted to talk about other than this is just like kind of briefly touching on all the other sports and how their leagues being paused affects the greater picture.
Yeah.
As Canadians, we know that Toronto has banned public events until at least June 30th now, and obviously that ban can be lifted at any time they see fit, but the fact that they're saying June 30th at the start of April worries me a lot, and it makes me feel like baseball, who thought originally they could see an early June return, it's just not going to happen, especially in a place like New York, where it's like the epicenter of North America's COVID-19 outbreak right now. At best, we'll only see a half season of baseball, and even that might be stretching it.
Yeah.
And it goes for the other sports too. I mean, hockey, basketball, like football isn't in progress right now, so we don't really have that kind of problem. But with these other three sports,
I know
pretty much...
Basketball's planning for a beginning of August comeback.
I pretty much said to Nigel before you joined this call that I was thinking about putting this in my notes, and I did. And I really feel now, at this point, you just have to call a spade and say the season's lost. As shitty as it is, because I've said in the podcast before this whole shit show happened that anybody who wins this adjusted or halved or whatever the season format may be for the particular sport, it's not going to be seen as a legitimate win because, maybe their injured players came back in the case of Tampa Bay or the Yankees.
I wanted to point that out with the Brooklyn Nets.
Exactly. Like, you could have a much better team based on this completely unavoidable factor and win. Like, just call a spade, say it's pretty much like a lockout, and we can't complete the season.
Imagine how it would be if we just gave LeBron James a 3-month break halfway through the season and then came back.
Well, you also
exactly.
You have to look at, like, you mentioned the Nets. The Nets, all of a sudden, the Nets have a 7 seed. The Nets now
his shit figured out.
The Nets now going to playing the Raptors. I think are still the 2 seed.
As of right now, they play the Raptors with Kyrie,
Kyrie, Dimwitty, like they kind of have a filthy team.
As a 7 seed, wouldn't
and then
even
you
be fair.
look at hockey. Like you now give Ovi a break. You now give Crosby a break.
Thing is, it actually limits Ovi if it doesn't return to like a few games before a playoff bracket starts.
It fucks.
He's now limited in the goals race thing that he was trying to do to beat Gretzky or catch up to Gretzky. That aside, like, honestly, sports leagues that were in progress should just be canceled altogether. I mean, it's shitty. We talk about football, and we have talked about football because it seems as though right now it's the only season that could go ahead unaffected by this whole thing. Like, hopefully by September, this whole thing is going to be over. Right?
Like, even like with you look at any sport, like, can you imagine, like, you give an old roster like Dallas time to sit, like, even if you can't, any of these championships are gonna have asterisks on them, not as big as the one with the Astros, but like nobody is going to take, and if you're given a championship this year, it's not going to be called official.
Like the Astros, it's a good thing that you actually pointed that out. The Astros could win this adjusted baseball season because of the ridicule that they would have faced in a regular baseball season with all this not happening. It might not be there when we restart baseball again.
One thing I do love is we have not forgotten the Astros Shame Tour Twitter account. Shout out. Fucking beauties.
Yeah, they've been keeping it going.
Fucking beauties. Have you seen that account that's literally just clowning all over Carlos Beltran?
I have. I've seen that too.
It makes it sound like it's him.
It should be noted, there is one piece of baseball news, and that is that the Red Sox investigation has reached a verdict, and it will be public within the next few weeks. So it's interesting to see. Yeah, it's interesting to see what the commissioner and the commissioner's team will report on the Red Sox cheating.
I have a chub now.
Yeah.
Unless they get fucking like, oh, they're not guilty. Fuck you.
That's the one thing in baseball news that's been circulating. But other than that, it's
sports are pretty dry. If somebody, like, I'm bored out of my mind without sports, like, I would watch professional poker right now if you gave it to me. It's really a rough time. For all of us.
I've been playing poker myself.
I have not, Gregory.
I have not.
My dad has. My dad is
cool cats and kittens out there.
Like, confused with Tiger, like why everybody enjoys it. Like, he's just like.
The real question is, have either of you guys ever watched Ozark? Because if you haven't, you really should. It is a great series.
Community just got put back on Netflix. I'm watching all 6 seasons again, even though it kind of stinks after season 4. I'm still gonna watch it.
It does blow chunks.
The only thing I've been doing with my time besides schoolwork is playing Madden. I'm getting bored.
I've literally been waking up at like 3 p.m. Maybe
it's so angled. I'm gonna bet at like 3.
Yeah, I know. I've been waking up at 3 p.m. Making a pot of craft dinner. Finally, sit down to enjoy whatever I do in the day at like 5 p.m. and then I go to bed at like the middle of the night. It's crazy. It's a wild world.
Like, I've been going like 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. like 3 to 11, like sleeping, and then the rest of the day just
same here, Nigel.
It's so mangled. But I guess we should move on to our debate topic, which we announced way back in episode 7, if any of you can remember back then. The most unbreakable records in sports history. So I guess, Greg, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'll start with mine. My unbreakable record is the season that Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50.5 points per game.
I was actually going to do this one, Greg. Full disclosure, I was actually...
How the fuck?
There's no goddamn way that anyone is touching this.
No, that's nuts.
Harden averaged 36, and everyone was ready to give him, like, a Nobel Peace Prize. But 54?
That's
Sorry,
crazy.
50.4?
Did, like, nobody
Crazy
play
talk.
defense back then?
No, it was just because he was 6'11 and 7'1 and insanely athletic, and everyone else was, like, 6'7.
That was back
slow
when,
as
like, your
shit.
average NBA height was probably, like, 6'4". Now,
I
like,
think it
6'4
was
is
shorter than
short.
that, dude.
Like, now 6'4 is short. Like, Steph Curry is short, and he's, like, 6'3".
Like, Danny
I mean-
DeVito was a point guard. I'm kidding.
I mean, the fact that you can call yourself Harlem Globetrotter alumni and play in the NBA, I mean, come on. That's pretty sick.
Can you imagine, like, if somebody today averaged 50.4? That's nuts.
50.4 is almost unheard of, and I think it's solely based to do with his size. And it has continued throughout history that NBA players are put down, like their skill levels put down because of their size and strength. Like, people say Shaq was only good because of his size. Giannis is only good because of his athleticism. LeBron's only good because of his athleticism.
Like, they're athletes, but they're also talented.
Right. And, well, another thing that is so insanely just baffles the mind about Wilt Chamberlain is how the man never contracted AIDS here, and how he has never had a severe STD, because this man slept with over 20,000 women.
What do you think Wilt Chamberlain averaged? More points per game or women per night during his
Women
career?
per night.
Can you, like, oh my god.
Both numbers are astronomical.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Deservedly so, though.
How many little, well, I guess not little anymore, but how many, like, little Wilt Chamberlains are there?
Name every player who played in the early 2000s.
Also, like, can you imagine how big that baby is? Like, Wilt Chamberlain is massive.
Okay, now.
That kid at birth has to be like 4 foot tall.
14 pounds, 8 ounces. Coming out standing 3'7" with a headband on.
You know, like, a lot, like, I don't know, it could be like a brag to say you slept with an NBA player, but if you say you slept with Wilt Chamberlain, it's like, congrats. So did, like, the population of
Your
Wisconsin.
mother, your sister, your grandmother, your
So did the
brother.
population. So did the population of New England.
Yeah. It's also a rumor that he was bisexual.
Well, we might be adding more to the count.
Yeah. Maybe that's never mind.
He's just a player, man. He's just trying to get his money and trying to get his
That
swagger.
dude, that guy was like, that life is nuts. And
If a player did that today, they would be hated.
Kobe cheated on his wife one time, and people questioned his legacy.
Yeah.
Will Chamberlain out here sleeping with 8 women a night.
Wilt Chamberlain started Donate a Dick charity, and everybody loves him.
No. Move on, please. Don't want to talk about donating the dick, according to Nigel.
Oh my god!
I guess I'll move on to my unbreakable record, and it's the NFL single season rushing record set by Eric Dickerson, which is 2,105 rushing yards. And this is less because
That Madden all the time.
yeah, I have to. Don't worry. My Barry Sanders white kid has run all over with teams. But
Chuck
besides,
Cornelius.
but no, the reason I say this is 7 people have ever hit 2,000 yards in general. We've seen 3 in 2000, the 2000s, 1 since 2010. Adrian Peterson's come the closest to ever breaking it in 2012, and that's when he carried the Vikings. But it's just the modern NFL doesn't allow for a 2,000-yard rusher.
No way.
Because now, like with the way the pads are so much smaller,
The game's changed.
your knees are now far less protected. Like you're never. I don't like the last. I like the only runner like we've had like Chris Johnson 2K, who's out of the league, was out of the league as quick as he was in it. AP is still in the league. I don't know how, but like the modern NFL offense won't allow for another 2,000-yard rusher. I don't think. Let alone like there's the talent. Like I think Zeke could do it. I think Saquon could do it. I think Derrick Henry could do it. Like there's so many guys I think could do it. It's just a modern style of play in a pass-happy league. Like back when a lot of guys, like when O.J. Simpson ran for 2,000 yards, your quarterbacks weren't throwing $4,000 a year. Like, it's just, I don't think it's going to happen. Eric Dickerson was like a workhorse when he hit it. And I just can't see it. It's just the modern style in the NFL is strayed so far away from running. Like now, your Super Bowl winners don't even need 1,000-yard rushers. Like the Chiefs did it without one. So I just can't see another 2,000, let alone 2,105 rushing yards in a season. I just don't see it happening anymore.
I don't either.
What record is yours, Jake?
Well, coming from the sport of baseball, my record is Joe DiMaggio, famed Yankee player, his 56-game hit streak. You cannot tell me, boys, that this hit streak of 56 games, I don't care if you're Mike Trout, I don't care if you're Christian Yelich, I don't care if you're Trevor Story, I don't care who you are in the major leagues today, against major league pitching in the 21st century, there is not one single person that could ever have a 56-game hit streak.
Pitchers are too good now.
Well, there's just so many types of pitchers now, too.
Like
there's
Back then, you were getting one type of fastball the entire game.
Like you weren't getting a two-seam
off-speed
fastball.
curveballs down the heart of the plate like every second pitch. Like,
And like you weren't like now there's also 2-seam, 4-seam. Like those weren't being thrown. You know, you've got 3 different kind of curveballs. You got off-speed sliders, like change-ups. Just there's too much now to hit 50 in a 56 in a row.
oh yeah, I like just analyzing this hitting streak that DiMaggio actually laid down. This was in 1941 that he did this, and every I know every other hit streak that even comes close is like Ty Cobb, Detroit Tigers, 40 games, 1911. George Sisler, St. Louis Browns, 41, 1922. There's one here from 1894, 1896, 97. The closest in what could be considered modern day baseball was Pete Rose when he did 44 games in 78.
Yeah, that's like
Just brings up the Pete Rose argument again. Reinstate him, please.
But even in the 70s, pitchers weren't as good as they are now.
True,
Like, you
but
can
they
argue-
were way better than in 1896.
Like you can argue that hitters are better, but I would argue different because back then people were pumping roids.
Yeah.
I like the modern day pitcher is just like there's so many different pitches as a hitter. You're lucky. Like 300 is a great batting average. Can you imagine hitting 50 games straight? Like the fact that Pete Rose was able to hit 40 something is nuts.
The longest in recent history is in 2011. Dan Ugla, you don't even know his name,
Who the fuck is that?
is 33 games with the Atlanta Braves.
See, even that's a lot.
I remember Dan Ugla from like MLB 2K something.
I do too. I remember him from like MLB 2K11 or like
Hey,
something crazy.
MLB 2K8 12-6 curveball. It's unhittable.
Man, no, I remember MLB 2K13. It's the one I had. That was when David Price was like the best pitcher in baseball. Oh, I hated playing against the Rays online. David Price would just muck everybody's day. That's like
those games were back for quarantine. I considered downloading Star Wars Lego the other day.
Man, Lego Star Wars is the shit.
Man,
Dude,
don't sleep on it. There's going to be a new Lego Star Wars game come out this year.
Buying it.
Man.
Me and my sister have played Lego Star Wars.
Too.
Put it in perspective.
I used to grind the bounty hunter mode.
You know, I've owned Lego Star Wars in every single system I've ever owned. Game Boy Advance, Lego Star Wars 2. GameCube, both 1 and 2. My first DS, my only DS, Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga. Wii, Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga. Xbox 360, Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga. Xbox One, Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Join us next week for another episode of What's in That Video Game Collection, starring Nigel, Cornelius, and your sister's name's blurring. Shannon.
Like so much like Madden, give me Madden 05 back when career mode wasn't shit in the game.
Madden 12.
Madden 12 was solid.
I loved it. It's my favorite Madden.
It's gone downhill since 13. Mine is Madden 09.
Give me NHL 2000 when guys were running around with cube heads.
NHL 2007. 2007 is when the skill stick came out. I could not play hybrid.
2007's the year that it was so cheesy with the not the cross crease, but when you just skate it down one side of the ice.
NHL 8 on PC with Eliash, an actual good
Patrick
devil
Eliash.
team.
What type of psychopath plays NHL on PC?
What kind of psychopath plays sports games on PC? Unless it's NASCAR, where you get the fucking steering wheel.
I wasn't picking and choosing when Santa gave it to me, guys. I'm sorry.
Greg, you can't tell me as a kid you didn't want to play NASCAR. Just turn the cars around and crash into everything.
Nigel, I've never played NASCAR.
I did. My dad had NASCAR Thunder 2003 on the computer, and I used to just take it with his steering wheel, and I'd 180 and just crash into things until my car blew up.
I'm not surprised, Nige.
Oh, my. So, yeah, basically all we've been doing is playing video games. I can't even play, Call of Duty Warzone because my Xbox doesn't have 200 fucking free gigabytes.
Tiger King. They're the most bizarre people in the world.
I've heard.
Hey,
no shit.
Everybody's talking about it.
Coke and snakes.
I need complete silence. Carol Baskin killed her husband and fed him to the goddamn tigers. He did not go away to Cuba or whatever. I swear to God, he's either in the tigers, they ate him, or he's in the septic tank. Hey,
he's definitely not in the tigers anymore.
Hello, you cool cats and kittens out here.
A long digestion process.
We need to get Carol Baskin behind bars.
Greg Mayton.
Get her on the podcast to plead her case.
I would love to. I'd rip that girl to shreds. Big cat rescue. My God.
I've never seen someone so passionate about events that happened 10 years ago.
Okay, let me get this straight. Every single character and person in that show is insane. They're all crazy, and they're all wrong, and they're all criminally, they should all be in jail, not just Joe Exotic.
I mean,
hey, for all those of you that are listening that have watched the series, you cannot tell me that Carol Baskin gave one goddamn shit about her animals. You can't tell me she did. I wish that guy would have went down to Florida, lined up on her bike trail, cocked it back, and let it go. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Another thing.
Thank you for coming to Greg's TED Talk.
Another thing they're doing before we go, they are doing. Is it a documentary or a 30 for 30 on Jordan and the Bulls?
That's a documentary. It's a 10-part on ESPN.
You know what I want? A 30 for 30 on Smoking Jay Cutler. I would watch the shit out of that. The aroma of being a mediocre QB, but giving so little of a shit that you're just a meme.
It'd be like
I'd get a signed copy of that.
Story.
Well, no, the Aaron Hernandez story. I was like, oh, they're gonna talk about how he murdered people. No, they just talked about how he was gay.
Exactly.
It was like Making a Murder, Aaron Hernandez. Actually, it should have been Aaron Hernandez. He is gay. That's what they should have titled that.
That's pretty much all the documentary was about.
Like,
though,
I was sitting there, I was
real
like,
talk.
man, this is going to be
It
interesting.
was also a horribly made documentary.
They were literally like, it was 3 parts. For the first 2 parts of it, he's gay, he's gay, he's gay. And then, like, the last part, they're like, oh, right, he killed people. Bye-bye.
They almost made it seem like it was okay that he killed people because he was gay, which baffled me.
It was a mess.
That's all for this week. Next week, debate topic will be the biggest what ifs in sports history. That's pretty much going to be our whole podcast theme, given that there's no actual news to report on, with a few exceptions. But we're pretty much going to be rolling with whatever we have in our minds for the next foreseeable future. Is that right? Or like,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's no real way to do this podcast without
I'm back
being
next week to see the update on Carol Baskin.
You do that. You do that.
Greg's going to come with like a PowerPoint slide that he's going to share to us.
50 reasons why Carol Baskin should be behind bars. Follow our social media at BRBL Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe to the Backroom Beer League YouTube channel. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.